one thing to know is to be confident. You have every right to ask for help, and you have every right to be polite as well.
So today we have with us Laurie from Travel Tips by Laurie. Laurie, welcome to Yodoozy.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
It's great to have you here with us. So Laurie, we have gone through a lot of your videos on YouTube. We follow you on Instagram as well. And we appreciate all the tips that you bring out for the people. As far as we understand about your journey, you have been an elementary school teacher. You are a pilot's wife as well.
Yes.
So from all that to starting your own YouTube channel, how did it all happen?
Well, I was a viewer of YouTube. I watched videos when my child was growing up. And then I planned a girls' trip when we moved to Texas. And I looked for YouTube videos to find the things to do in that city in Waco. And I could not find any videos. And so I was like, somebody needs to make a YouTube video. And I did not plan on making a YouTube video, but I was like, it would be helpful to people if there was a video telling them things to do. And so I took some pictures and made one when I got back home. And then I had guests come to our house. And so I made them some little gifts. And I'm like, oh, I could share this idea with people. And so I did that. And my channel was called Laurie Pop, I believe. And then I made more travel videos, and that's what more people were watching. And so I niched down in a couple of years after that.
Oh, that's interesting. And as far as your channel being a travel channel, but it is still a little bit different from all the usual travel related stuff that we see out there. Would you like to elaborate a little bit on that? Why did you choose this as a niche, and who it is that you're creating content for?
There are a lot of people who do not know how to travel, how to go through airport security, and how to pack. And so I felt like with my teacher background, I really could help them feel at ease with that process. And there are a lot of people who like to be organized. So my channel is geared towards people who need organization tips, just things to know before you go to the airport and how to make your life easier and less stressful. It's very intimidating being around a TSA officer, or you're so scared about doing something wrong. And so I feel like my expertise, because of all of our travel with being a pilot family, that I could help people that way. And being a pilot wife, I don't know, it just makes people trust me more and know that I do have a lot of experience that
Oh,
can help them.
absolutely. How many places have you traveled to, Laurie?
Oh, so many. I grew up with teachers and we had the summers off. So we camped in a pop-up camper across the United States for like weeks at a time. So that set the tone for me wanting to travel. And then I've gone to Germany, England, Spain, Italy, Mexico, France.
So a lot of Europe and in the
Yes.
States as well.
Yes,
Amazing, amazing. So,
it is.
seeing that yours is a self-help tips channel, you must be getting a lot of questions from your subscribers. And there must be a few that would stand out from the others for any given reason. Would you like to share any such questions that you receive?
Yes, my most asked questions is are antibacterial wipes or the wet wipes, are those considered liquids? And
Oh,
they are
wow.
not. That is my most asked question. And I do think some people think that I am a TSA officer or I have some kind of authority with the airport security, but I don't. I just read the rules that are on the website. And then another one is, can I take my prescription drugs like pills, the dry ones?
Right.
They think they have to have them in a medicine container and have the prescription, and you do not. But that's in the United States.
Interesting, interesting.
If you're going to a different country, then I would research that prescription drug and is it allowed in that country that you're traveling to.
That's a good advice. And especially in the present situation, like when we talk about people who are trying to travel, people who are trying to commute, and quite often, like it's people trying to reach back home. It's increasingly becoming difficult for people to understand the rules, regulations, and especially when you talk about parents with younger kids. Like we often see these
Yes.
images where staff is removing parents from flights, especially because of their toddlers who are not wearing masks, etc. So, would there be any tips for such parents who are traveling with young kids, toddlers especially? And what can they
Yes.
do to possibly avoid getting evicted from a flight?
Yes. One thing is to know the rules. We all know that they have to wear masks if they are 2 years old or over. And with my teaching background, I just made a video last month about how to help your child wear a mask on the airplane. And regardless of how you feel about that rule, it is a rule. And so you can either drive to your destination or follow the rules with that airline. And one way that I have thought up to do this is to say, okay, put your mask on, wear your mask over your nose while I'm counting out this snack. And if they make it to 10 pieces of that snack, then they get to take the mask off and have the snack. And then another way is to lengthen that, make them last through an entire commercial or a wonderful YouTube ad that they're watching, make them last through the commercial with their mask on, and then they get the snack or some kind of reward. And then another tip is to teach them how to pull the mask down to their chin, because while you are chewing or biting or drinking, you can have the mask down at your chin. And we all know that children lose their mask very easily. So having them keep it on their chin, as soon as they're done eating, you can tap them or give them a sign language symbol. And that means to put the mask back over. And one more tip that I thought was so cute is using a stuffed animal and putting the mask on the stuffed animal and say, where is your stuffed animal's nose? I don't see his nose. Somebody took his nose. And then your child says, no, they didn't. His nose is right there. And that helps them know that the mask needs to fit over their nose to follow the rules.
Right. And while you were pointing that out and giving those tips, I think it's as much more important to teach the child how to wear a mask before they get on a flight rather than just trying it for the first time within the flight.
Yes.
Because I think that's one mistake that a lot of parents make, like when they're getting in the flight, they're trying to put it on for the first time and the child doesn't understand why is the mask being placed on him, and like they just try to throw it off.
Yes. And if the flight attendants see that you're trying your best and you don't have a bad attitude, they are going to work with you to help you.
Oh, that's good. And is there
Hmm.
any age group or age limit for a child to wear a mask, or did you find
Well,
any
they have
tips about that?
they have in the airlines here, you have to wear a mask if you are
If you're
two
two.
years old and over.
Okay, so if they are younger than two, then legally they cannot do anything about it.
No, they do not need to have a mask. One thing that I do is when I am looking at the airline rules, because one thing to help yourself is to look at your airline and search carry on limits or type in your airline and mask with children, and that will pop up. And I take a screenshot picture of that rule just in case you get an employee who does not know the rules or didn't remember the rules, and you've got your proof as the authority just to help
That's a
you.
good idea. Yeah, you can always have a screenshot because you might not have access to Wi-Fi or internet while you're in flight.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's a great idea. So,
Thank
Laurie,
you.
you've traveled to so many places. Do you have a favorite destination or favorite place that you would
Yes.
want to go to?
Yes. Repeat Spain. It's in part of the Andes Mountains, and we would go just for this one restaurant.
Oh, amazing. Where in Spain?
Yes. Repeat. Rupit.
Laurie, you are a pilot's wife. You might have an inclination or some sort of attachment to the airports. Do you have a favorite airport or any airport? Like where, say, for example, if you were to stay and like quarantine or possibly you get stuck at an airport like that famous movie. Would you like to
Yes.
pick one airport?
Yes. Denver International Airport in Colorado. They have an ice skating rink where they
Oh,
used
wow.
to. They have a little section near security that you can play games. And they have wonderful food. There are multiple levels. They do have a little kids playground for toddlers, and that always helps. I know the San Francisco International Airport has a yoga studio, so that's always fun. They're so creative.
That's amazing. I think a lot of our viewers might want to take a flight to Denver the next time they are traveling to US, just to check out all the facilities there. Um, all right, and also, we get a lot of questions from our viewers because our website has a lot of travel content, and also we have got a separate Instagram channel which is Yodoozy Travel. So we keep receiving a lot of questions from travelers and would-be travelers, and one of the biggest question on everyone's mind is when is a good time to book a flight? I think that's the first question that you'll get.
Well, I think it's the time that you are first looking at that website. So you have to know, in my opinion, the days you want to go the very first time you're searching for them, because if you don't, when you go back, they know that you're looking for those flights, so the price goes up. As an airline family, we have very reduced uh, ticket prices. So it's not an issue for us. We don't buy tickets, but our teenage son, we've had to buy tickets for him, and we've learned that.
All right. Do you have any favorite websites where you personally like to book tickets? Or
We go, we compare. We look at like kayak, and then we'll also look at an airline, and we go with the cheapest ticket that we can find with
um,
a specific amount of a layover, no less than an hour. If you have
right,
to connect in an airport to get to your final destination, um, we say never less than an hour.
right.
There's one airplane, there's like a 737-900, I believe. It's 737-900, I think, and it takes at least 10 minutes just to get everyone off in a normal day.
So, what would be an ideal layover time? Definitely not less than 1 hour, but to be on the safe
Two,
side, especially for an international flight where you might have to go through an immigration again.
oh, yes. Yes. International, I would say 3 hours. Domestic, I would say 2 hours to be safe. And you can see what the size of the airport is. Like Denver International Airport is humongous. Atlanta International Airport, humongous. London Heathrow. Oh, and in Europe, you have to go through customs several times if you're
Right.
connecting flights. So, oh my word. Yes,
It can be the same in Asia as well at times. So, like when you're
I
moving
bet.
there, yes, even between airport terminals, you might have to go through the
Yes.
security check again.
Yes.
All right. So I think 2 to 3 hours, 2 hours for domestic and 3 hours for international sounds like a good advice. Like we should
Yes.
definitely book our tickets on the safer side of things rather than trying to rush it and trying to take a chance on this. Because otherwise, like if you have to end up booking a fresh ticket, it's going to cost you a lot.
Yes.
All right. Is there a smart way to use your airline miles? You must be a frequent flyer, a member of some airline or something. Is there a smart way to go about it, or would you recommend that there is a better way to spend those miles on instead of booking a
We
ticket?
we save our miles for hotels, and we book hotels that have a refund policy. Like if we need to cancel, or since we fly standby with our airline, if we don't get on the flight because there are no empty seats, then we don't fly on that flight. And so we might need to wait until the next day before an open flight would come available. So we save our miles for that. And then I know if you have the priority pass, which so many people do, it comes with several different credit cards.
Right.
There's a thing called Minute Suites in the United States airports. Well, there's across the United States. There are like 7 airports that have them, and they are individual private rooms with a day bed and free Wi-Fi and TV. There are
Right.
showers, and you can use those with your miles
Oh,
as well
amazing.
as. especially for a discount. And if you have a priority pass, you get an hour free. But
Is
that's
there
just an
a
opportunity.
particular mileage program that you would recommend? Like Star Alliance is a good one when you're
Oh
traveling
yes,
nationally. Would you recommend that
that
as well?
that's the one that we would use.
All right, that's great to know. Um, a lot of people, from our audience, would have already started working on a vacation plan once, and like
Good.
once the situation allows them to travel outside. Do
Mhm.
you think, or do you have any recommendations on when they should start looking for a good deal? Because right now, the end doesn't seem to be near when they would
I
start
know.
traveling again.
And just so you know, all of the people at my church here are praying for India right now, especially. Um, but I would say, let me tell you this. Last summer, in the height of all of this, in South Carolina, this little island that we visit, we have friends there, so we can stay for free. It was booked in May for the entire season. They're both realtors, and so I am sure it's booked up this entire season. So I would book at least 3 months before. And we are trying to go to Hawaii this summer in 6 weeks. We try to reserve restaurants because that's the way, once your area is opening, they've allowed the restaurants to serve people, but they're requiring reservations. And all of those reservations at 4 of the restaurants I tried are booked solid every single day of our 5-day vacation in Hawaii. So
Oh
just
wow!
know that.
So possibly as far in advance as they can book.
Yes.
Right. Like a lot of people on the internet are searching for tips or hacks, especially, the kind, which kind of drink that they can mix up at Starbucks, especially. Are there any airport hacks that you would like to share or any food court hacks?
One thing that my husband has figured out as a pilot is everybody seems to get in line at the most popular Mexican restaurant, let's say. But it's the same food if you walk further down for almost half the price to a less crowded Mexican restaurant, if that's what you're
Hmm,
looking for. So the the main area where food is in the food court, that may not be the cheapest area. Just walk a little further.
that's interesting because
I
again,
know.
like the properties that these restaurants, etc., end up taking over at airport, depend on the location as well, and hence the
Yes,
price.
and the water fountains are all back on. I don't know if you noticed that, but in the airports, they turned the water fountains all off. So take your aluminum mug or an empty water bottle to the airport, and you'll save your money by just filling up your water bottle at one of those stations.
Right. That's an interesting travel hack. And I think that's more of a backpacker's travel hack because, like people like to travel with their own bottles, etc. Have you by any
Yes.
chance completed any backpacking trips?
No, I haven't.
Oh,
I'm too
okay.
scared.
um,
I I prefer hotels.
all right. So you are more of a luxury traveler, like want to enjoy the comfort. I don't blame you for that. I'm the same way. What are the five essential items that you would take on your travel tips with you? Like some things that any traveler should not forget to pack.
The 5 essentials that I think every traveler should have is an empty water bottle, like we talked about earlier, for the water fountains and to get your drink on the cheap from the food courts and airports. And then also a personal item bag that has a trolley strap on the back that you can slide over your carry on suitcase handles so you can be hands free. I would also pack your charger. You can also pack a blue tape, and that is tape that peels and sticks real easily. You can use it to repair like a tear in your suitcase while you're traveling. It is good for covering up a blister on your foot until you get back to your hotel room and can get a band aid or a plastic. And then you can also cover up the hotel clock light that's so bright in the middle of the night. Sometimes you can cover up the microwave light in your hotel room to help you get a better night's sleep. That's about it.
Amazing. Amazing. Laurie, you are popular for the tips that you give to other travelers, but is there any tip that you have come across and, like you found it helpful?
Yes, the very first one is to use the coat hanger in your hotel closet to keep the trousers or to keep the curtains closed in your hotel room. So the coat hanger that you usually would hang up trousers with, take that over to the curtains and keep them closed, because in the morning on your vacation, you don't want that thin line of bright sunshine coming through your hotel room
Oh wow,
curtains.
that's really helpful. I think like I'm going to give it a try next time I'm out there. uh, Laurie, I understand you've traveled through Europe, you've traveled in the US, and a few other places as well. Did you find any difference in the way that hotels, the way that airport staff, receives you in different places? Would you have some different tip for people who are trying to travel to Europe, or some tips for people who are traveling in US? How do you see the difference there?
One thing, because people are so nervous when they go through airport security or to the ticketing counter, is they get in a hurry. And so, what I do now, even if I am flying domestically, I use my passport as my ID instead of a driver's license or something like that, because it's bigger. And so, I have less chances of losing something big like my passport versus my little bitty ID that I have to slide in this certain spot or slot in my wallet before putting it in my bag. If I just travel with a passport, I can easily throw that in a large pocket while I am getting organized or while I get through security. Then I can put it in a secret place or a special place. And one thing to know if you're flying in the US, I'm not sure how they are in Europe, but our TSAs are different at different airports. Like, so many of my viewers have told me that this spring they have not had to bring out their liquids bag, they do not have to take off their shoes. But if you go through that airport the next day, there could be a certain security reason why they do now want you to pull out your liquids bag and take off your shoes again. It's frustrating because it can be inconsistent. And my advice is to make sure you know the rules and we're going to be ready. That way, when we get to the airport, if they do tell us to out our liquids bag or take off our shoes, we know that that is required. So that's not going to stress us out and make us feel like we're in a hurry. We might be pleasantly surprised that day. TSA has really new technology that does not need you to take out these things. And we do not know, but there could be a low security threat that day in that particular city. And that's why you don't have to follow the security rules for regular airport security. So just know that they will be inconsistent, but it's okay. But to listen to what the officers say and then to be prepared before you go. And one thing that I do is I pack my suitcase as if I'm fixing to go through the airport security line. I have in my outside pocket my liquids bag, my food bag that is now required, and my wallet in that outside pocket, so that when I pull out those bags, they're easily accessible, and then I can put them back in right after security. Then when I get to my gate where my airplane is, I can get organized and put them where I really want them. But I feel like if I pack correctly at home, I'm ready for airport security right when I get there, if that makes sense. I
No,
just want
that's
people to be
definitely
less
yes.
stressed.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's a very helpful tip for anybody listening into this conversation. Laurie, one thing that a lot of Asian flyers, when they're flying to Europe or flying to US, the difficulty that they end up facing is understanding the accents, especially when it comes to US, or like those hard English accents as well from Yorkshire and such places. What would you say, could be a polite way of asking an airport staff to go slow when they are talking instead of trying to rush through things?
Okay. My husband is learning Spanish. He's taken almost 500 days of Spanish. And so he understands that if they speak slower, it helps you understand. And one thing to know is to be confident. You have every right to ask for help, and you have every right to be polite as well. If you see a gate agent or an airport employee that has a crowd of people, that is not the time to go ask them for help. You want to find someone who is off by themselves with their employee uniform on and then ask for help. And another thing that I see, especially my husband, is in the terminal, you do not want to stop and ask someone because people want to keep moving in the terminal, the hallways in the
Right.
airports. So move off to the side and ask someone over on the side for help. And they're happy to
Amazing.
help.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely, and especially the information desks, etc. That is where possibly you can get the best advice. That is what I have
Yes.
found in my journeys, instead of
And look
trying
on your
to talk
ticket.
to a random employee. Yeah,
Yes. And look on your ticket. Like, look, oh, why is this number here? I'm going to ask them why this number is here. And that means that's when you get on the airplane. That's your
right,
turn number, for example.
right. Especially when you're traveling to an English-speaking country, it may still be a little bit easier for you to understand things
Yes.
from the signboards, from the flight tickets,
Right.
etc. But when you're traveling to a different country, that doesn't speak English. That is when you have to
I
figure
know.
out things on your own. So
Yes.
it can
And
be
it's
quite,
so good for you. It's so
yeah,
good for you. It makes you appreciate other cultures and
absolutely.
your language.
Absolutely. Laurie, thank you so much for joining us on this discussion, on this chat. We look forward to talking to you more, looking at your videos and all those things coming from your channel. What can we expect to see more on travel tips by Laurie in the coming days?
Thank you so much for this time. I have noticed that a lot of people are driving to the beach this summer and visiting an ocean. So I have a video about that. And then a lot of people have not flown in over a year and are very nervous. So I have a video coming out about what you absolutely need to know before you travel this summer.